Denver, Colorado, was much more than a city surrounded by majestic mountains and an ever-blue sky. It was a place where ancient traditions and modernity coexisted in a harmonious dance. Downtown streets were vibrant, with independent coffee shops exuding the aroma of freshly ground beans, while the farther neighborhoods showcased houses with white picket fences and pristine lawns. But Denver also carried a certain historical weight, marked by tales of pioneers and the changes brought by time. Here problems seemed smaller and life more predictable, at least on the surface. At the heart of this community, Sheriff Hank Callahan was much more than just a law enforcement officer. At 45 years old, he bore subtle signs of years of dedicated service on his face, but his eyes still held a determined gleam. He was the kind of man who knew everyone by name, stopped to help elderly citizens cross the street, and talked to children about safety, making them laugh with exaggerated stories of Old West outlaws. To the residents, Hank was a symbol of stability, someone they trusted to maintain order amid life's minor turbulences. However, Hank's appearance hid something deeper. He was tall and sturdy with graying hair that gave him an air of wisdom. His impeccably aligned uniform seemed almost like an extension of his personality, methodical, responsible, but also rigid with himself. Despite his leadership role, there were moments when his smile seemed forced, as if something troubled him. No one imagined that behind the facade of security he provided for the city lay an internal struggle, a growing tension. And although Denver saw him as an unshakable rock, he was human, and his humanity was about to be tested. Chaos began on a cold morning when the sound of sirens broke the characteristic silence of the small town. The abandoned house on the outskirts, once just a hideout for curious explorers or thrill-seeking teenagers, became the epicenter of a horror no one could have imagined. Inside a rusty freezer partially covered by debris, Amanda's body was found, a 19-year-old girl whose dreams and future had been brutally interrupted. The news spread through the town like wildfire. Amanda was known for her vibrant energy, her smile brightening even the grayest of days. Her long brown hair and curious light brown eyes became a painful memory for those who knew her. When residents learned of her fate, the impact was profound. People gathered at street corners, in the central square, and in cafes, trying to comprehend how something so terrible could happen in a place that, until then, seemed untouched by such cruel crimes. The details of the scene were macabre. The house, covered in graffiti with broken windows, exuded a stench of decay that etched itself into the memories of the officers who responded to the scene. The freezer, a relic of the past, made the setting even more disturbing, as though it concealed a secret no one wanted to uncover. Sheriff Hank Callahan, one of the first to arrive, maintained a firm expression as he led the investigation. But those who knew him well could see the weight in his eyes. This case was no longer just about justice. It was about maintaining the trust of an entire town. And though Hank knew the work was just beginning, the inescapable feeling that something darker was yet to come loomed over him. The initial shock of Amanda's body discovery had begun to subside, but the town still buzzed with speculation about the sinister details of the case. Amid this growing tension, a secret emerged, shaking the foundations of the small community. In a scandalous twist, it became evident that Amanda, the 19-year-old victim, had been involved in a romantic affair with Sheriff Hank Callahan. The revelation was not only an emotional bombshell but also an earthquake that profoundly complicated the investigation. It all began when old messages were recovered from Amanda's phone by forensic analysts. Among trivial exchanges and innocent photos were emotionally charged conversations, intimate confessions, and accounts of secret encounters. At first, many refused to believe it. Hank was the pillar of the community, a man embodying morality and order. But the evidence was irrefutable. The townsfolk were divided between disbelief and anger. The sheriff, who had always been the first person they turned to in times of crisis, was now at the epicenter of a scandal no one wanted to face. Hank's position became untenable. He tried to maintain composure in public, but his eyes no longer held the same steadiness. In the precinct's hallways, whispers and accusatory glances surrounded him like a nightmare he couldn't escape. Yet he didn't deny the relationship. In a painful statement, he admitted to the affair, insisting he never intended to hurt Amanda or her family. However, his confession raised even more questions. Could he have been directly involved in her death? Or was he merely a victim of circumstance? The community wanted answers, but what they received was a heavy silence, foreboding that the truth was far darker than anyone imagined. Hank Callahan was the perfect image of a family man, or so it seemed. With his wife, Martha, he shared more than 20 years of marriage, built on mutual responsibilities and unbreakable commitments. Together, they had raised 2 children now off at college, and their home, nestled in a quiet neighborhood, appeared to be the ideal family haven. From the outside, the well-manicured lawn and perfectly aligned curtains were signs of a balanced life. But behind closed doors, the reality was quite different. The relationship between Hank and Martha had devolved into a cold, functional coexistence, where passion was a distant memory. Martha was a strong-willed woman, known for her kindness in the community and her constant support of her husband's initiatives. In recent years, however, she had become more reserved, preferring to spend time on solitary hobbies like gardening and reading. Conversations with Hank were brief and practical, revolving around bills, schedules, and social events. Silence filled the gaps, but both seemed to have accepted this disconnection as an inevitability of life. Hank, for his part, found refuge in his work, where his role as sheriff kept him busy, and more importantly, away from home. It was in this emotional void that Amanda entered Hank's life, bringing with her something he hadn't felt in years: vitality and attention. He knew what he was doing was wrong, but he justified it as an escape from a colorless marriage. In Amanda, he found someone who saw him not as an authority figure but as a man with flaws and vulnerabilities. Every meeting with her was a desperate attempt to revive something he believed had been lost forever. But deep down, Hank knew he couldn't keep this secret indefinitely. The weight of his choices began to show in his tired expressions and his posture, once impeccable, now marked by constant tension. Something was about to break, and he feared that when it did, nothing would be salvageable. Amanda was always seen as a promising young woman, someone who carried both her family's heritage and the aspirations for a different future. Born into a traditional, conservative family, she grew up under strict rules and clear expectations. Finish her studies, marry someone suitable, and follow a stable, secure life. Yet within Amanda burned a restless spirit. Her heart yearned for freedom, to explore the world beyond the confines of their small town. She dreamed of a life where she could choose who to be, free from the limits imposed by culture and familial traditions. This tension between the expected and the desired shaped Amanda's every decision. In her family's eyes, she was the perfect daughter, polite, respectful, and always ready to help. However, on the nights she slipped away to meet Hank, her true self emerged. Amanda loved reading forbidden novels and writing her own stories, filling notebooks with dreams she would never share with anyone. With Hank, she felt seen and understood. He seemed to notice something in her that no one else did, a spark of independence ready to shine even recklessly. Still, the duality of her life was a constant struggle. There were moments when Amanda questioned whether she was betraying more than her family's expectations. Was she betraying herself? She knew her relationship with Hank was risky and that he, too, carried his own emotional scars. But it was this mix of danger and complicity that drew her in. Each meeting promised something new, something that made her feel alive. However, deep down, Amanda knew she was walking a fragile tightrope, where one misstep could destroy everything she knew. And it was that very tightrope that, sooner or later, would inevitably snap. The relationship between Hank and Amanda began as unexpectedly as it was innocent. It all started when Hank was called to investigate an incident at Amanda's family home. A simple case involving a suspect who had allegedly used the property as a hideout after a petty theft. Amanda's family was apprehensive about the police presence, but Hank's calm tone and firm demeanor quickly put them at ease. He conducted the investigation professionally, but he couldn't help noticing Amanda, who watched everything from a distance, her curious eyes and faint smile leaving an impression on him. That day, Hank exchanged only a few words with Amanda, but something about their interaction lingered in his memory. She asked him a casual question about his work, showing a genuine curiosity that disarmed him. He responded, smiling back, explaining the details of the investigation in a simple way, almost as if trying to impress her. To Amanda, Hank seemed different from the other adults she knew. He exuded a protective energy, yet with a touch of vulnerability, as if carrying an invisible weight. That brief exchange was enough for both to feel a subtle connection, something neither dared to admit at the time. Their subsequent encounters were mere coincidences, or so they seemed. Hank occasionally passed by her house, checking in for updates on the case. Amanda, on the other hand, found excuses to appear in the yard or on the porch. They started to talk more, always politely and within the bounds of cordiality. Yet with every conversation the barriers between them seemed to weaken. Amanda began to confide small details about her life, and Hank, without realizing it, did the same. What started as simple casual conversations became the beginning of something much deeper. A secret growing silently between them that would soon drag them into an abyss neither could foresee. What began as casual conversations in Amanda's yard quickly evolved into something far more intimate and risky. Their innocent exchanges transformed into late-night messages, with Hank discreetly finding ways to establish a direct line of communication with Amanda. He justified this to himself as professional concern, a pretext to monitor any developments in the case that had brought him there. But deep down both knew it was far more than that. The tension between them grew with every interaction, like a flame waiting to engulf everything around it. The first secret meetings were tentative. Hank suggested a remote cafe outside town where no one would recognize them, and Amanda, hesitant but excited, agreed. In that secluded setting their barriers began to crumble. Hank spoke about his personal life in a way he never did with anyone. The strain of his marriage, the emptiness he felt despite the stability of his career. Amanda, in turn, shared her frustrations with a controlled life and the feeling of being trapped in a place that didn't understand her. It was as if they had found a mirror in each other, reflecting desires and voids no one else could fill. As their meetings became more frequent, their relationship reached an intensity neither could control. Every moment together felt stolen from time, a pause in the suffocating realities they both lived. They met in increasingly isolated places, sometimes on hidden mountain trails or even in discreet motels. The risk made it all the more thrilling but also more dangerous. Hank knew his position as sheriff placed his reputation at stake, and Amanda, though of legal age, was aware that their relationship would be seen as an affront to societal norms and expectations. Yet, blinded by passion, neither could stop. They were on a path of no return, and the weight of the consequences was yet to be fully realized. Amanda felt as though she were caught between two worlds, both pressing down on her in opposite ways. On one side, her family expected her to be the obedient daughter, loyal to the traditions and rules that had governed her life since childhood. On the other side there was Hank, with whom she experienced an intense, forbidden love that made her feel alive in a way she never had before. But this duality came at a cost. Each time she returned home after a secret meeting, the weight of her lies bore heavily on her shoulders. Her mother's questioning gaze, though wordless, seemed to pierce her soul as Amanda struggled to keep her composure. Meanwhile, Hank found himself ensnared in his own web of guilt. He knew that as sheriff his role was to uphold order and set an example for the community. However, the double life he led was beginning to erode his confidence and alter the way he saw himself. At home his relationship with Martha grew colder and more distant. They could barely sustain trivial conversations without him feeling that he was betraying not just his wife but the values he had sworn to protect. At work his colleagues started noticing changes in him. Hank seemed distracted, and the firm gaze that once inspired trust now carried an air of uncertainty. Despite the growing tension, neither Hank nor Amanda could break the cycle. To Amanda, Hank represented an escape, a symbol of independence and choice in a life dominated by control. To Hank, Amanda was the one person who made him feel wanted and alive again. Yet they both began to sense that their connection came at a potentially devastating cost. Amanda felt increasingly alienated from her family and the dreams that had once seemed so clear. Hank, on the other hand, grappled with the conflict between protecting his reputation and pursuing something he knew was impossible. Deep down, they both feared that the fragile thread binding them together was about to snap, taking everything they knew down with it. Amanda's home had become a stage for veiled arguments and suffocating expectations. Her family, deeply rooted in conservative traditions, began intensifying their pressure on her to follow the expected path, to marry a young man from the community, carefully chosen by her parents. Dinner table conversations were increasingly dominated by insinuations and urgent remarks about her future. For Amanda, every word felt like an invisible chain tightening around her, trapping her in a life she longed to escape. She smiled and nodded, but inside she felt herself being torn apart. The family's insistence was not just cultural. It was also a means of regaining control over Amanda, whose burgeoning independence they began to perceive as rebellion. Her mother frequently mentioned Samuel, a kind and successful young man who frequented the same social circles as the family. Despite their efforts, Amanda saw nothing but emptiness in the idea of a future with him. Her internal conflict grew more intense. Should she remain loyal to her family's expectations or follow her heart and dive deeper into her forbidden relationship with Hank? Hank too felt the impact of this mounting pressure. In her most vulnerable moments, Amanda confided in him about the despair she felt as she was forced to choose between two versions of herself. He listened attentively, but the guilt gnawed at him. Hank knew he was the reason Amanda hesitated to follow the path her family had laid out for her, yet he couldn't bring himself to step away. To him, Amanda was the last spark of something real in a life that had long since become mechanical. However, with each passing day, the sense that something was about to explode became impossible to ignore. The tension was nearing a breaking point, and when it snapped, no one would emerge unscathed. Hank Callahan, once known for his calm and calculated demeanor, began exhibiting signs of unease that did not go unnoticed. His wife, Martha, was the first to pick up on the changes. He started coming home later from work, often with vague excuses about urgent investigations or unexpected meetings. His once meticulous routine now seemed disorganized, and the silences that marked their shared moments became even longer. On some nights she found him lost in thought, staring out of his office window as if the weight of the world were on his shoulders. Martha, with her natural sensitivity, could tell something was deeply wrong. At work, Hank's colleagues also noticed the shift. The sheriff, who had always been punctual and attentive, began making small mistakes, forgetting details in reports or reacting abruptly to simple questions. During meetings, he often seemed absent, as if his mind were elsewhere. At first, his colleagues attributed it to the stress of Amanda's case, which had already shaken the town. However, as the weeks went by, whispers began to circulate. Why did Hank seem so personally affected by this case? Why did he avoid talking about certain details of the investigation? The suspicions surrounding him began to grow. Even in public, Hank's facade began to crack. During patrols or casual encounters with residents, he avoided eye contact or abruptly changed the subject when Amanda's name came up. His usual confidence seemed replaced by constant tension. Townsfolk started whispering discreetly, questioning what could be happening to the sheriff. Some speculated that he was simply overworked, while others suspected something more sinister. Whatever the case, Hank was becoming his own worst enemy, and each strange move he made seemed to bring him closer to a truth he could no longer hide. When the pressure to solve Amanda's case reached its peak, state authorities decided to intervene. Enter Kate Sullivan, a woman with an impeccable reputation and a unique talent for uncovering secrets others overlooked. With short, perfectly styled brown hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see beyond words, Kate commanded respect the moment she stepped into a room. With years of experience in complex cases, she had mastered the art of blending into a scene without drawing attention, while ensuring her presence was always felt. Kate began by diving into the details of the case, analyzing reports, revisiting the crime scene and interviewing everyone involved. Her approach was methodical and precise, yet empathetic enough to make people open up to her without realizing it. Soon she began identifying small inconsistencies, especially in the information provided by Hank. His firm demeanor as sheriff appeared unshakable to most, but to Kate something didn't add up. She noticed how he avoided certain topics or averted his gaze during critical moments. To her, Hank Callahan was a man with something to hide. As Kate delved deeper, secrets began to surface. Deleted messages on Amanda's phone, vague testimonies from locals who mentioned seeing Hank in places he shouldn't have been, and an emotional connection he clearly tried to conceal all pointed to a deeper involvement. Kate started piecing together a larger puzzle, a web of lies and omissions that suggested something far greater than a simple homicide. As the pieces began to fit, Kate realized she was closing in on a truth that would shake not just the case but the foundation of the entire town. And while Hank continued to maintain his stoic appearance, Kate was certain he was teetering on the edge of a breakdown. Kate Sullivan's investigation reached a turning point when new evidence emerged, directly linking Hank to Amanda. It all started with the recovery of encrypted messages on Amanda's phone. At first glance, they seemed harmless, but once decrypted, they revealed emotionally charged exchanges and confidential plans. The messages showed frequent communication, ranging from mundane daily updates to discreet meetings in remote locations, far from the prying eyes of the town. The content left no doubt about the existence of a secret relationship, something Kate knew would devastate both the investigation and Hank's public image. Meanwhile, witnesses began to come forward, albeit hesitantly. A waitress at a remote cafe recalled seeing Hank and Amanda together on several occasions, seated in a secluded corner, speaking in hushed tones. Another local who ran a repair shop near a back road reported seeing the sheriff's car parked near a place Amanda was known to frequent. These small clues, previously ignored, now formed a clear pattern. Kate realized that what once seemed like coincidences were, in fact, pieces of a deliberate connection linking Hank to Amanda. The discovery of surveillance footage solidified the suspicions. Security cameras from a remote motel captured Hank entering and leaving with Amanda on multiple occasions. The recordings left no room for doubt. The relationship was not only real but had been active shortly before Amanda's death. For Kate, this evidence painted a disturbing picture. Hank, the symbol of the town's stability, was directly tied to the victim in a case he was supposed to solve. Now more than ever, Kate knew that confronting him was the next step. And as she prepared for this, she sensed that the confrontation would not only bring answers but also expose even darker secrets. When Amanda's autopsy results were released, the investigation took an unexpected turn. The report revealed something shocking. Amanda had not died suddenly or violently as many had assumed. Instead, she had been slowly poisoned over weeks. The toxin, identified as polonium, a rare and highly lethal substance often found in agricultural pesticides, suggested a meticulously planned and carefully executed crime. This revelation drastically shifted the investigation's focus, moving suspicion from Hank to Amanda's family, who now became the primary suspects. Kate Sullivan immediately redirected her efforts to uncover the dynamics within Amanda's family. What once appeared to be a traditional household now revealed itself as a web of control and tension. Amanda's father, a rigid and authoritarian man, ran the household with an iron grip. He also owned a small rural property where the pesticide identified in the autopsy was commonly used. Amanda's mother, quieter and seemingly living in her husband's shadow, displayed anxious expressions during questioning, suggesting she knew more than she was willing to share. Amanda's older brother, described by neighbors as reserved and difficult to approach, also came under Kate's scrutiny. As Kate unraveled the family's secrets, evidence emerged that Amanda had expressed a desire to leave home and carve out an independent life, something her parents found unacceptable. A close friend revealed that Amanda had frequently clashed with her father, especially after he discovered her relationship with Hank. Additionally, Kate uncovered records of recent pesticide purchases at the family's farm, with vague justifications provided for their use. The pieces began to fit together, painting a picture where the family's desire for control and inability to accept Amanda's rebellion may have led to fatal consequences. However, with this new direction, it became clear that the truth, though closer, was far darker and more complex than anyone had imagined. Just as Kate thought she had pieced together the final elements of the case, the messages exchanged between Amanda and Hank uncovered a twist no one had anticipated. A more detailed analysis, conducted with the help of digital forensics experts, revealed hidden and deleted exchanges that suggested Amanda had been aware of her poisoning. Even more unsettling, she seemed to suspect Hank's involvement. One deleted message stood out: "I trusted you, but something doesn't add up. Did you know about the poison? If you do, tell me before it's too late." These words turned the investigation into a storm of doubt. If Amanda had suspected Hank, could he have been directly involved in her death? Or worse, was he being manipulated to cover up the real perpetrators? Hank's reputation, already tarnished by the revelation of his affair, now appeared on the verge of complete collapse. Kate realized that the situation was more intricate than she initially believed. Hank, during his questioning, denied any knowledge of the poisoning. He claimed Amanda often confided things to him she didn't share with anyone else, but insisted he knew nothing about any threats to her life. Yet his hesitancy when answering specific questions only fueled more suspicion. To Kate, the possibility that Hank was either a willing accomplice or an unwitting pawn had to be thoroughly explored. The investigation took a dangerous turn. Now, the primary suspects included both Hank and Amanda's family, with evidence pointing in conflicting directions. The twist sent the town into an uproar, with rumors spreading even faster than the facts. Kate understood she was closing in on the truth, but every step closer also heightened the stakes. The looming revelations promised to shatter lives, trust, and the very foundations of the community. Amanda had started noticing the early signs of something wrong weeks before her death. Initially, it was subtle: unexplained fatigue, persistent headaches, and a general sense of discomfort which she attributed to stress. However, as the days passed, these symptoms grew more alarming. Her skin lost its vitality, and a constant weakness made even the simplest tasks an effort. When a high fever and bouts of vomiting began, Amanda started to suspect there was more to her condition than met the eye. Her fears intensified during a pivotal moment in her relationship with Hank. After months of secret meetings and unmet promises, Amanda demanded he make a choice. "Either you divorce her or this ends," she wrote in a short, direct message. Hank, visibly shaken by the pressure, tried to reason with her, explaining that a divorce would ruin his career and reputation as sheriff. For Amanda, however, these excuses fell flat. She no longer wanted to live in hiding, relegated to the shadows of Hank's life. Shortly after their confrontation, Amanda began suspecting she was being poisoned. She researched her symptoms online and came across information about polonium, a rare, highly toxic substance that could be administered undetected over time. The idea seemed absurd, but her instincts told her not to dismiss it. In subsequent messages, Amanda subtly confronted Hank, questioning his loyalty and expressing her growing fear that her life was in danger. Hank's vague and evasive responses only deepened her suspicions. Surrounded by doubt and uncertainty, Amanda couldn't be sure if she could trust him, or anyone else. The poison, both literal and metaphorical, was already consuming more than her body. It was destroying her faith in everything she believed in. Determined to trace the origins of the polonium, Kate delved deeper into the evidence, uncovering a critical lead. The purchase of the substance had been made online. A meticulous review of digital records led her to an alarming discovery. The transaction had been completed using Hank's personal computer. While this pointed to his possible involvement, further investigation revealed a twist. The delivery address for the substance wasn't Hank's home but a P.O. box located far outside of town. Realizing the importance of this lead, Kate obtained surveillance footage from the facility where the P.O. box was registered. The grainy recordings provided a breakthrough. The person retrieving the package wasn't Hank but someone wearing a cap and oversized clothing, clearly attempting to conceal their identity. As Kate scrutinized the footage, she noticed something familiar. The suspect's physical build and movements matched those of Amanda's older brother. To confirm her theory, Kate cross-referenced the time of the package retrieval with Hank's alibi. Records showed Hank had been on patrol in town during the same period, effectively removing him as the person who picked up the delivery. While this momentarily absolved Hank, it raised new questions. Could Amanda's brother have used Hank's computer to place the order? Or was there an even more intricate scheme at play? Kate's discovery shifted the investigation's focus toward Amanda's brother. Revisiting his previous statements, she found them evasive, especially regarding his relationship with Amanda. Financial records revealed suspicious cash transactions leading up to the crime. The P.O. box now stood as a critical piece of the puzzle, pointing to a plot more sinister than previously imagined. As Kate closed in on the truth, the danger escalated, and she braced herself for the fallout of what she was about to uncover. The revelation of the P.O. box as the delivery address for the polonium added a new layer of complexity to the investigation. Determined to uncover who had retrieved the package, Kate scrutinized the surveillance footage from the facility. The grainy video showed a figure wearing a cap and baggy clothes, clearly attempting to disguise their identity. Yet, despite the poor quality, Kate noticed subtle details. The person's gait and body language bore a striking resemblance to Amanda's older brother. This discovery redirected Kate's attention, but it raised further questions. If the polonium had been purchased using Hank's computer, how had Amanda's brother gained access to it? To uncover the truth, Kate analyzed timestamps from the transaction and cross-referenced them with Hank's activities. She confirmed that the purchase was made during a time when Hank had been out of the house, creating a gap in his alibi. But the missing piece was still motive. What could connect Amanda's brother to the polonium, and why would he have implicated Hank in the process? The breakthrough came when Kate noticed a second figure in the surveillance footage. Though partially obscured by a hood, the person accompanying Amanda's brother was unmistakable. It was Martha, Hank's wife. The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Martha's involvement not only tied her directly to the crime but also suggested a deeper and far more personal conspiracy. This wasn't just about Amanda. It was about revenge and control. With this evidence in hand, Kate began reconstructing the events leading up to Amanda's death. The pairing of Amanda's brother and Martha indicated a shared motive, one that combined familial resentment and personal betrayal. Kate realized the investigation was heading toward its most explosive revelation yet, one that would expose the darkest corners of their intertwined lives. As Kate delved deeper into the connections between Amanda's brother and Martha, a shocking revelation emerged. The two had been involved in a secret affair. This discovery added another layer of betrayal and intrigue to the case, complicating the motivations behind Amanda's murder. Kate pieced the story together through recovered messages and witness accounts. The affair had begun months earlier, during a period when Martha was visibly dissatisfied with her marriage to Hank. For Amanda's brother, who had long felt overshadowed by his sister, Martha represented both a confidant and an accomplice. The relationship wasn't limited to clandestine meetings. Surveillance footage from the P.O. box facility revealed that Martha had accompanied Amanda's brother during at least one of the pickups for the polonium. This finding confirmed that their bond extended beyond emotional intimacy. They were active collaborators in the crime. The question that now loomed was how their affair and shared resentment had escalated to a meticulously planned murder. Through interviews with neighbors and acquaintances, Kate uncovered a picture of two deeply troubled individuals. Amanda's brother resented her independence and her defiance of their family's strict expectations, while Martha viewed Amanda as the catalyst for her failing marriage. Together they had formed a dangerous alliance, their mutual hatred for Amanda fueling their actions. The evidence painted a chilling portrait of manipulation and obsession, but Kate knew she still needed one final piece to complete the puzzle: a direct confession. As Kate prepared to confront them, she realized the depth of the deception she was unraveling. The truth about Martha and Amanda's brother was not only a betrayal of their families but a dark testament to how far resentment and jealousy could drive people. The confrontation would force their secrets into the open, but it was also bound to shatter the fragile fabric of the lives around them. After weeks of relentless investigation, Kate finally unearthed the truth. Amanda had been poisoned slowly over time, and the culprits were none other than Martha and Amanda's brother. Driven by hatred and jealousy, Martha had orchestrated the plan, while Amanda's brother executed it under her manipulative influence. The evidence was undeniable. Digital trails, surveillance footage, and witness accounts all pointed to their calculated conspiracy. Martha's motive was rooted in her fury over Amanda's affair with Hank, which she believed had destroyed her marriage. She convinced Amanda's brother, already harboring resentment toward his sister, that Amanda's defiance was tearing their family apart. Together they devised a chilling plan to eliminate her, using polonium to ensure a slow and undetectable death. The poisoning began subtly, with Amanda's brother slipping small doses into her food and drink during moments when they were alone at home. Kate pieced together their actions with painstaking detail. Financial records showed purchases of the substance through the P.O. box, while surveillance footage confirmed their movements. Amanda's declining health and her suspicions about being poisoned added a tragic irony to the story. She had been fighting an invisible enemy within her own family. When confronted, Amanda's brother broke down, confessing to his role and implicating Martha as the mastermind. Martha, however, remained defiant, denying involvement even as the evidence mounted against her. Their arrest sent shockwaves through the town. The once respected wife of the sheriff and a grieving brother had been revealed as perpetrators of a heinous crime. While justice was served, the fallout was profound. The community struggled to reconcile the image of Martha and Amanda's brother with their monstrous actions, and the fragile trust in their town's moral foundations was left irreparably damaged. With the confessions and overwhelming evidence in hand, Martha and Amanda's brother were formally arrested and charged with Amanda's murder. Their meticulously planned crime, fueled by hatred and manipulation, shocked the community to its core. For a town that had seen Hank Callahan as a symbol of law and order, the realization that his wife was the mastermind behind such a heinous act sent ripples of disbelief and anger through its residents. Martha, once viewed as a reserved and loyal spouse, became the embodiment of betrayal and cold-heartedness. During her trial, she attempted to justify her actions, blaming her hatred of Amanda on the affair with Hank and claiming that her actions were motivated by a desire to restore balance in her family. Her testimony, however, only underscored the depth of her cruelty and manipulation. Amanda's brother, on the other hand, broke down during his interrogation, revealing that he had been coerced into participating, emotionally manipulated by Martha's promises and her portrayal of Amanda as the family's disruptor. Hank, after enduring weeks of suspicion and public scrutiny, was finally exonerated. Though relieved to be cleared of involvement in Amanda's death, he could not escape the consequences of his affair. His personal and professional reputation lay in ruins, and the respect he once commanded as sheriff was irreparably damaged. Realizing he could no longer serve the town as its trusted leader, Hank made the difficult decision to resign. In a heartfelt statement to the community, he admitted his mistakes, expressed regret for the pain caused, and asked for forgiveness, though he knew it might never come. Kate Sullivan emerged from the case as the town's hero. Her meticulous investigation and unwavering dedication to uncovering the truth had brought justice for Amanda, but at a great cost. The case left her reflecting on the complex layers of human relationships, jealousy, and the destructive power of secrets. As she left the town, Kate carried the bittersweet knowledge that her work had exposed the darkness lurking beneath its idyllic surface. For the community, Amanda's story became a cautionary tale. It highlighted how envy and unspoken resentment could fester and lead to unimaginable acts. Though the culprits were behind bars, the shadow of their actions lingered. Families who once trusted each other now hesitated, questioning how well they truly knew the people in their lives. Hank, now alone, retreated from public life. His resignation marked the end of an era for the town, and his departure left an emptiness that would take years to fill. Meanwhile, Martha and Amanda's brother faced long prison sentences, their lives forever marked by the choices they had made. Justice had been served, but the price was steep. The town would never forget Amanda, the bright young woman whose life had been cut short by the very people she should have been able to trust the most. In the end, the case served as a stark reminder. Beneath the calm exterior of even the quietest communities, secrets can grow and the consequences of betrayal can echo for years. Welcome to Spooky Stories, the channel where thrilling and mysterious tales come to life. Here you'll hear stories based on real events with names and details changed to protect identities and, of course, to avoid any legal issues. So, get ready to dive into intriguing cases full of twists and turns that will keep you hooked until the very end. If you enjoy chilling and surprising stories, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. And don't forget to leave a like. It helps us bring even more amazing tales to you. At the end of this video, we've got a suggestion for another thrilling case waiting just for you. Stick around and uncover the secrets behind these dark stories with us.